Every time the phone rings, you brace yourself. Another missed opportunity, another argument, another financial mistake. You've been here before. Again, it feels as though life is on repeat. The same mistakes, the same outcomes, despite your best intentions. Maybe it's the decision you keep making in relationships, the one that always leads to disappointment. Or perhaps it's that same impulsive purchase that drains your savings, only to regret it days later. The frustration builds. You're left asking yourself, why does this keep happening? If you've ever felt trapped in a loop of mistakes, repeating the same patterns despite knowing better, you're not alone. It's a struggle many face, especially as we grow older. But what if there's a way out? What if the key to breaking this cycle lies within the ancient teachings of Stoicism? You see, the root of our repeated mistakes often has little to do with the circumstances and more to do with how we react to them. And Stoicism, an ancient philosophy rooted in rational thought and emotional control, can provide the clarity and strategies needed to break free. If you're ready to take control of your life, reflect on your decisions, and finally stop repeating those same mistakes, make sure to like and subscribe to Stoic Narratives Official. You don't want to miss out on the powerful insights we'll explore today. Number 1. Emotional triggers that trap us in loops. We all have moments when emotions take the wheel and guide us toward decisions we later regret. It's in these moments that we often stumble into the same patterns, repeating mistakes we know better than to make. But why does this happen? Why do we keep reacting in ways that only keep us stuck in the same loop? Take, for instance, a man who gets into a heated argument with his spouse. In the heat of the moment, he feels misunderstood, and his anger escalates. He knows the conversation is spiraling out of control, but something inside him refuses to back down. After the dust settles, he realizes he said things he didn't mean and hurt someone he loves. Yet, just a few months later, in another argument, the cycle repeats. He finds himself saying the same things, making the same emotional decisions, and feeling that same regret afterward. This isn't just an isolated situation. Many of us fall into similar traps, whether it's snapping at a colleague, losing our temper with family, or acting impulsively with money. These emotional reactions, fueled by anger, fear, or frustration, often cloud our judgment and lead us into repeated mistakes. The Stoics teach us that these emotional triggers, when left unchecked, become the obstacles we repeatedly stumble over in life. Epictetus said, "You become what you give your attention to." This rings true when we reflect on how often we let our emotions drive us instead of stepping back and reflecting. When we let anger or anxiety dominate our thoughts, we're not making decisions based on reason, but on our immediate emotional response. This disconnect between emotional impulse and rational thought creates a cycle of self-sabotage. The key to breaking this cycle is self-awareness. One powerful tool the Stoics recommend is starting an emotional awareness journal. By writing down moments when emotions led to impulsive actions, you create a roadmap of your emotional triggers. The next time a similar situation arises, you'll have a clearer understanding of how your emotions are shaping your responses. This reflection enables you to act with more clarity and intention. Another essential Stoic practice is replacing emotional reactions with a pause and reflect habit. In moments of frustration or stress, instead of reacting instantly, take a few seconds to breathe and consider your response. This pause helps create space between your emotion and your action, allowing for a more measured response that's aligned with your long-term values, not just immediate feelings. Reflect on this. How often do you act out of emotion rather than reason? Whether it's snapping at a loved one or making a rash financial decision, these reactions stem from a lack of emotional regulation. By embracing Stoic practices, such as pausing to reflect and journaling emotional patterns, you take control of your responses. The more we practice emotional awareness, the less power those emotional triggers will have over us. This is the essence of Stoicism, recognizing what's within your control and mastering it to make better, more thoughtful decisions. Number 2, the ego, your biggest blind spot. Our biggest blind spot often hides in plain sight. It's the ego. We all have it. It whispers in our ears, urging us to justify our actions, protect our pride, and resist accountability. The ego is a master at convincing us that we're right, even when we're not. And because of that, we repeat the same mistakes, unable or unwilling to see where we went wrong. Take a man who's been leading his company for years. He's made decisions that have worked well in the past, but lately, the results aren't so great. A new idea comes up that could solve some pressing issues, but instead of listening, he dismisses it. What do they know? I've been doing this longer than they've been alive, he thinks. He digs his heels in and insists on sticking with his outdated methods, all because his ego refuses to accept that change might be necessary. In the end, his company suffers because of his stubbornness. How many times have you found yourself in a similar situation? You knew there was a better option, but your ego told you to push forward with the plan you already had in mind. Perhaps it was a work project you refused to delegate, or a personal relationship where you couldn't admit you were wrong. It's not just you, it's human nature to protect our ego. However, as the Stoics wisely point out, the ego doesn't help us grow. It keeps us stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacles we face, especially our own ego, can become the very tools we use to grow if we allow them to. The first step is acknowledging that our ego is blocking our progress. When you find yourself justifying a decision or resisting feedback, ask yourself, is my pride worth repeating this mistake? It's a tough question to face, but it's one that can lead to profound self-awareness. The ego thrives on defensiveness, but when we make space for accountability, we break free from its grip. Regularly seeking feedback, even from people who challenge us, is one way to keep the ego in check. It might be uncomfortable, but it's necessary for growth. Now think about your own life. Where has your ego kept you from learning? Are you holding on to a decision simply because it's your decision, even though the evidence suggests otherwise? The truth is, your ego isn't your friend, it's your blind spot. By practicing radical honesty with ourselves, we disarm it. It's not about being harsh, it's about being real. So next time your ego starts to speak up, take a step back and ask, what is this ego protecting, and is it really worth it? Your growth depends on your ability to see beyond it. Number 3, escaping the trap of short-term gratification. We've all been there. The temptation of the quick fix, the instant pleasure. It's easy to be seduced by what feels good right now, especially when the rewards are so immediate. But what happens when we make decisions based on short-term gratification, only to face long-term consequences? That's the trap many of us fall into, and it's a major reason why we continue to repeat mistakes. A man walks into a store, sees a new gadget, and decides he has to have it. It's not in his budget, but he convinces himself that he deserves it after working hard all week. He swipes his credit card and walks out with the item, feeling a momentary rush of excitement. Fast forward a few weeks, and that same man is staring at his bank statement, regretting his impulse buy. The excitement has worn off, but the debt lingers. How often do we make decisions like this, choosing instant pleasure over a more thoughtful, long-term approach? The problem with living for instant gratification is that it robs us of long-term satisfaction. We may get that quick rush, but the underlying dissatisfaction always catches up with us, leaving us right back where we started, sometimes even worse off. The Stoics understood this principle well. As Seneca once said, no great thing is created suddenly. The best things in life, true fulfillment and lasting success, are the product of small, consistent actions over time, not instant rewards. And yet, it's easy to ignore this wisdom when the allure of immediate pleasure is so strong. How often do we sacrifice our future well-being for the comfort of today? The Stoic mindset teaches us to adopt a longer view. Instead of rushing into decisions for short-term satisfaction, we are encouraged to pause and think about how our choices will affect us in the long run. Before you reach for that credit card, ask yourself, will this still matter in 5 years? It's a simple question, but it has the power to change everything. Taking a step back, even for just a moment, can save you from regret. This isn't about denying yourself pleasure, it's about prioritizing what truly matters in the long term. Maybe that new gadget isn't necessary after all. Perhaps that impulsive decision is better postponed. Reflect on this. How many of your current struggles could have been avoided if you had thought about the long-term impact of your decisions? How much better would your future self feel if you chose consistency over momentary pleasure? Remember, the Stoics believed that true success is built slowly, through deliberate and thoughtful actions, not quick fixes. So the next time you're faced with a tempting decision, ask yourself, am I acting for today or am I planning for tomorrow? When you start thinking in terms of long-term goals, the pull of short-term gratification starts to lose its power. Number 4, radical accountability, breaking the cycle. It's easy to point fingers when things go wrong. Blame the circumstances, blame the people around you, or blame bad luck. But what happens when you realize that the one person responsible for your repeated mistakes is you? That's where radical accountability comes in. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the only way to break free from the cycle of repeating the same mistakes. A man has been stuck in a job he dislikes for years. He complains about his boss, his coworkers, and the workload. Yet, when it comes time to make a change, he does nothing. He waits for the perfect opportunity, hoping something will shift in his favor. But time and again, he finds himself in the same frustrating position, wondering why nothing changes. The truth is, he's waiting for someone else to change the circumstances. He's not taking accountability for his role in the situation. How many times have you done the same? Complained about a situation but not taken the necessary steps to change it? Maybe it's a relationship that isn't fulfilling, but you refuse to have the hard conversation. Or it's your health. Each year, you promise to eat better and exercise, but you never make it a priority. The problem is that blaming others or external factors doesn't help us grow. It keeps us stuck. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This insight is powerful because it shifts the focus from external circumstances to our own responses. When you take radical accountability, you stop waiting for someone else to fix things. You acknowledge that you have the power to make changes, even if it means facing uncomfortable truths about yourself. So, how can we implement radical accountability? It starts with a simple but profound step: reflection. Each evening, take a moment to review your day and ask yourself, what mistakes did I make today, and how did I contribute to them? This isn't about self-criticism or guilt. It's about taking responsibility and finding ways to improve. Whether it's how you handled a difficult conversation or how you approached a project, acknowledging your role in the outcome is the first step toward real change. But reflection alone isn't enough. You must take action. When you recognize that you are the common denominator in your repeated mistakes, it's time to make different choices. Don't wait for the perfect moment or for someone else to make the change for you. Make the decision to act, even if it feels uncomfortable or risky. Now think about your own life. Where are you avoiding taking accountability? How many times have you blamed others for a situation you could have changed by taking action yourself? Radical accountability isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about freeing yourself from the cycle of passivity and blame. By taking ownership of your decisions, you gain the power to break free from old patterns and move forward with purpose. The next time you're faced with a challenge, ask yourself, what role did I play in this situation, and what can I do differently next time? Embracing accountability means taking control of your life and your future. No one else can do that for you. Number 5, influences that shape decisions. The decisions we make are often influenced by more than just our own thoughts. They are shaped by the people around us, the environments we inhabit, and the social norms we follow. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, are the people I surround myself with influencing me for the better? Or are they just reinforcing old habits that keep me stuck? Take a man who's been hanging around a group of friends who love to complain about their work, their relationships, and their lives in general. Every conversation seems to revolve around negativity, and before long, he finds himself joining in. He starts focusing on what's wrong in his own life too, instead of what's going right. Slowly but surely, his outlook shifts, and what started as innocent venting turns into a perpetual cycle of dissatisfaction. It's not that he doesn't have good intentions or the ability to change. It's simply that his environment has shaped his mindset without him even realizing it. The Stoics were keenly aware of the powerful influence of others. Epictetus, for example, emphasized the importance of surrounding ourselves with those who will challenge us to grow, rather than those who reinforce mediocrity or negativity. Associate with those who will make a better man of you, he said. This simple yet profound idea holds a deep truth. The company we keep can either elevate or hinder our progress. Think about it. How many times have you made decisions simply because that's what your friends, family, or colleagues were doing? Whether it's impulsively buying something because others are doing it, or holding back from pursuing a goal because it seems too risky compared to the comfortable paths others are on, our decisions are constantly influenced by external factors. And often, we don't even realize how much they shape our actions until we look back at the results. This is where Stoicism can provide clarity. The Stoics taught that we must take responsibility for our own actions, and part of that responsibility includes being selective about who we allow to influence us. The more you surround yourself with people who challenge you and inspire you to be better, the easier it will be to break free from old patterns of thinking and acting. But here's the catch. It's not enough to just recognize the influence of others. You must actively curate your environment. That might mean distancing yourself from toxic relationships that keep you stuck, or seeking out people who embody the qualities you want to cultivate in yourself. It's about creating an environment where growth is the natural outcome, where positive influences push you toward your best self. Now, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Are the people around you encouraging your growth, or are they reinforcing old habits that lead to repeated mistakes? Who do you turn to for advice or support when you need to make an important decision? The Stoics remind us that the people we choose to associate with can either be the stepping stones to our success or the anchors that hold us back. As you move forward, ask yourself, what influences am I allowing to shape my decisions? And how can I create a circle that fosters my growth and helps me make better choices? Surrounding yourself with people who push you toward the best version of yourself can be one of the most powerful ways to break free from the cycle of repeated mistakes. Number 6, finding clarity through silence and stillness. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to get swept away by the noise. The constant barrage of information, deadlines, and expectations can cloud our judgment and leave us feeling overwhelmed. But have you ever stopped to think that perhaps the key to breaking the cycle of mistakes is not in doing more, but in doing less? What if the clarity we seek is already inside us, waiting to be uncovered in moments of silence and stillness? A man, exhausted from a year of stress and bad decisions, takes a day off work. Instead of diving straight into another task or filling his time with distractions, he sits quietly in his favorite chair, with no phone, no TV, and no agenda. At first, his mind races, filled with all the things he should be doing. But after a while, a surprising thing happens. His thoughts begin to settle, and for the first time in a long time, he feels calm. In that stillness, clarity emerges. He realizes that many of his past mistakes were the result of rushing through decisions without truly thinking them through. The Stoics often emphasize the power of silence and stillness. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, made it a practice to find moments of quiet reflection amidst his duties as emperor. He wrote, "Be still. Your calm mind is the cradle of wisdom." These moments of stillness were not just about rest. They were about creating space for clarity, reflection, and better decision-making. How often do we take time to pause before reacting to situations? How often do we make decisions in the heat of the moment, only to regret them later? The truth is, when we don't allow ourselves time to think, we're often driven by impulse, emotions, and external pressures. But by intentionally seeking moments of stillness, we can start to step away from that reactive state and approach life with more clarity. The Stoic practice of pausing, whether through meditation, reflection, or simply taking a walk in silence, helps us detach from the noise and reconnect with our own thoughts. In those quiet moments, we can find the space to question our motivations and make decisions that align with our true values, not just the immediate pressures of life. Now, think about the last time you made a decision that you later regretted. Was it made in haste, without taking a step back to assess the situation? The next time you're faced with a tough choice, try this. Take a few minutes to sit in silence, breathe deeply, and give yourself the time to think. In that stillness, you might just find the clarity you need to make a wiser, more thoughtful decision. The Stoic wisdom is clear. Sometimes, doing less is actually the key to doing more. By slowing down and embracing silence, you create the space for deeper insight and better decision-making. So, ask yourself, when was the last time I allowed myself the gift of stillness? And how can I make it a part of my daily life to improve my decisions moving forward? Number 7. Emotional regulation as the foundation for wisdom. When emotions take control, decision-making becomes clouded, and we often find ourselves regretting actions that were driven by the heat of the moment. Emotional reactions are powerful, but if not managed properly, they can lead us straight into the same mistakes we swore we wouldn't repeat. So what if the foundation of wisdom wasn't just about knowledge, but the ability to regulate our emotions? A man walks into a meeting at work. Tensions are high, and as the conversation intensifies, he feels his frustration rising. Someone challenges his idea, and before he knows it, he's responding defensively, raising his voice and saying things he doesn't fully mean. The meeting ends, but the damage is done. He leaves feeling regretful, wishing he had been able to keep his cool. Later, reflecting on the situation, he realizes that his emotional outburst led to more harm than good. It wasn't the challenge that triggered his reaction. It was his inability to manage his emotions in that high-pressure moment. This is a perfect example of how unchecked emotions can derail our decision-making. The Stoics understood the vital importance of emotional regulation. They taught that in order to achieve true wisdom, one must first master their emotional responses. As Seneca said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. This insight speaks volumes. Often, the emotions we feel are exaggerated by our thoughts and imaginations. By learning to control those emotions, we can avoid making impulsive decisions and find a clearer path forward. So, how do we manage these emotions and avoid repeating the same mistakes? It starts with the 10-second rule. When emotions begin to rise, take a moment, just 10 seconds, to pause, breathe, and collect your thoughts. This simple act of taking a brief step back gives you the time needed to respond rationally, rather than reacting instinctively. By practicing this pause regularly, you begin to rewire your brain to respond with more clarity and less impulsiveness. But emotional regulation doesn't stop there. It also involves recognizing patterns in our behavior. Are there specific situations that consistently lead to emotional reactions? For example, does criticism at work always trigger a defensive response? By identifying these triggers, you can prepare yourself in advance and develop strategies to remain calm when they arise. Over time, this awareness helps you make wiser decisions as you're no longer governed by the heat of the moment. Consider this. How often have you made a decision only to regret it later because it was driven by raw emotion? The reality is, when we let emotions dictate our actions, we put ourselves at the mercy of temporary feelings, which often leads to long-term regret. If we can control our emotional responses, we empower ourselves to make more rational, thoughtful decisions. The next time you feel that surge of emotion, whether it's anger, frustration, or excitement, pause and ask yourself, is this emotion guiding me toward a better decision, or is it leading me into a cycle of mistakes? By embracing emotional regulation as a daily practice, you'll be able to make choices that are rooted in wisdom, not impulsivity. And that, my friend, is the path to breaking free from the mistakes that have been holding you back. We've covered a lot today, from the emotional triggers that trap us in repeating mistakes to the powerful practice of emotional regulation. We've explored how the ego can blind us to the truth, how short-term gratification keeps us stuck, and how radical accountability can break the cycle. Stoicism teaches us that by taking control of our emotions, surrounding ourselves with positive influences, and embracing stillness, we can make better decisions and break free from patterns that hold us back. But here's the thing. These lessons aren't just for understanding, they're for living. The Stoic principles we've discussed today can only help if we commit to practicing them consistently in our daily lives. It's not enough to know the philosophy. We must apply it in every decision, every conversation, and every challenge we face. The power lies in repetition and intentional action. Now, I encourage you to reflect on what we've discussed today. Where in your life can you start applying Stoic practices? How can you begin to regulate your emotions, step back from impulse, and take radical accountability for your actions? These small shifts can lead to powerful changes over time. I'd love to hear about your journey. How are you breaking free from the cycle of mistakes? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue this conversation together. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Stoic Narratives Official for more insights like these. Remember, your path to growth starts with the first step. Take it today.